Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hi, hello, welcome to yet another episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, that super special one since the first of the year. So let me be the first to say compliments to you in terms of this being our first show for 2023. And I'm super excited, guys. You can see me sort of getting giddy and my sentences getting out of order and stuff like that because I have a great guest, and you'll find out in a moment why I'm so excited. But just do me a small little favor. If you can, just find that subscribe button and just strike it, guys. It really helps us in terms of this show. These algorithms are really giving us a headache as content producers, and sometimes we just have to be open with you guys and tell you why we keep urging you to subscribe, so that the show can stay alive and functional. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
My guest is Denim Richards, but I would like, as usual, for him to introduce himself in greater detail. Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is a pleasure. So I'm Denim Richards. At least we all know that.
Yes.
I'm an actor. I'm an entrepreneur and things of that nature. So I like to try to keep it short and sweet. I have a tendency to be very long-winded.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn how to get my intros to very, very short.
I'm going to press you to give us a condensed version of your profile or your CV, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right. So Denim Richards. I'm a Hollywood actor. I've been acting for over 20 years. I'm on the #1 show in the United States called Yellowstone. I was one of the stars on the show alongside Kevin Costner, who actually just yesterday won a Golden Globe for Best Actor on a Drama Series, Yellowstone.
To him.
This is great for us as well.
Yeah.
So Yellowstone averages 16 million views per Sunday.
Wow.
It's the #1 show in the U.S., and in the next year it'll be the #1 show in the world. In 2024, it'll be in Africa, so I think it'll be really special in the next couple of years.
And you're no stranger to BW, right?
No.
Tell me about your relationship with the country.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been here for 2.5 years. I go back and forth. I spend half my time here sometimes, or 7 months here and 5 months in the U.S. Usually just when I'm filming. As soon as I'm done filming, I'm back here. So this is my whole life is here now. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful country. It took a little bit of adjusting for me because growing up in Los Angeles, California, it moves very, very fast. And so when I got to this side, I was like, everyone's so relaxed. Which is great.
We're chilled, man.
It's so that was a process for me.
It's actually a double-edged sword for us if you think about it. It can work for us in certain circumstances,
right?
But it also backfires.
When you're trying to like get business done, sometimes it can be a little bit stressful. But as far as like everyday life, I think where else would you want to be?
Okay, all right. Now, tell us about your genesis into becoming an actor.
So I started relatively young at 5. I started singing, and then I would just be kind of thrust into crowds. It was at church, but then we also had like bigger organizations that the church belonged to. We would have these annual events that I would go and sing at, and then I started getting into plays, like musical theater and things of that nature, which, of course, as a young boy at that point, people were like, musical theater, that's a little bit weird. But it was great training for me. And then I just kind of kept at it. And when I started getting into my 20s, I started getting into more like national commercials. And then I had a very, very low period for like 5 years of not being able to make it in television and film. It was very challenging. Most people think that you just decide to be an actor and then Hollywood opens up the doors and then you walk onto a stage. And it doesn't work like that. There's a lot of poor times. For sure.
I'll tell you, my favorite actor is Denzel Washington. And like in several movies, he says something like this: get your effing hands off me. And he
Right.
says it in a certain unique way. And his character in Equalizer, I think the series really drives me completely. So I'm just
great.
curious as to what do you think of him and who's your favorite actor?
So I grew up watching Denzel do so many things. Obviously, I mean, his wealth of knowledge in the arts and entertainment world, from not only just from film, but for plays on Broadway and things of that nature, like Fences, which he got so much acclaim for. But I grew up really admiring Sidney Poitier because he was one of the ones that had started in Hollywood in the 60s as being the first African American, or I wouldn't even say African American because it wasn't from America, but the first black actor that we were able to see that was trailblazing to win an Oscar, to just do the things and actually say no to executives and producers. He was very bold, and I think that was amazing. He kind of set that path on for Denzel to be able to do the great things that he's doing now.
Yeah. And we just want to touch on some of the challenges that actors have. But my own observation is that the earlier crop of actors was really ripped off by the system, by Hollywood. And it took a while for actors to see themselves as a business.
Right.
Do you see yourself as a business?
Yeah.
The way Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as that?
Yeah.
And tell me about the thinking behind that.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I talk about this all the time. I do a series of masterclasses all over where we literally talk about the business of entertainment, that it's not just you showing up, being an actor, doing your lines, and then going home, and then hopefully you get a paycheck. You have to know what it is that you're doing. And so part of the thing is, like, for myself, when I was younger, I thought of myself as just an actor. So then I would get money, and then I would blow the money. I had no idea what investments or anything that you should be doing with money. It was just something that you should go, and then you maybe get some women, and hang out, flirt and do all these other things, and then you don't have any money. And so as I got older and I appreciated how challenging the world of entertainment was, I was like, you really got to get into the business. And I tell people now that, like, for myself, I'm incorporated, right? So I am a business. And so, because businesses like to do business with other businesses, businesses sell to individuals. And so I look at myself as a businessman, and my product happens to be that I'm an actor. And that's how I approach everything. And I need to know everything that my business is doing, from the people that are on my team, percentages, how to scale up, how to take advantage of different opportunities. You're not just showing up and doing a thing. You're looking about, how do I maximize this for maximum scalability? Okay.
And if you look at, some of the actors, I mean, I think it was a documentary on James Brown and, his tragic and he didn't have much. And there's so many others like him. Do you think there's a shift, speaking about America in particular, and then what about here in motherland? What is the thinking? What is your view of the current crop of actors? Is there a shift taking place?
No, it's a great question. I think back in the time of, like, James Brown, Ray Charles, and things of that nature, they were highly taken advantage of. Back in the day, especially for many people that don't know, like, in the United States, like, the South was known to be the most racist in the whole of the U.S.
Not anymore.
Right?
We'll touch on that.
We'll get there. But but so back then, though, when they would perform, they used to pay them in drugs, because what happened was, you would go and perform, and then they wouldn't be allowed to go to any restaurants or any because of segregation. And so what they would do is they would say, "Oh, don't worry about the money, just take some heroin." And so then what happened is they would get them addicted to heroin, and then they would always forego money. So then by the time a record label said, "You're washed up, you don't have anything," they had no money, they had nothing, but then they had a massive drug addiction. And so this was the way that they had done this for a long time, and it worked for a while. And then you started getting more people that said, no, I want to have ownership, I want to own my label, I want to own my records, I want to own my masters. And I think that started a little bit of a wave. But in Hollywood, it's the same thing. It's just, you have to understand how the system works, and the system is they're not paying anybody in heroin anymore. I'll just say that much. But as far as
But you get stories like MJ
right.
and Prince paid for the change with their lives.
Right.
Is it true?
Right. I think you do. I think you do pay for everything with you. I think, this is part of greatness. Unfortunately, people don't appreciate you until you're gone. And I think that that's sometimes hard because I think there's people that want to do good things, want to do great things, want to be a trailblazer, but then they're afraid about what the rest of their life looks like. And so it's not for everyone. But I think that sometimes you have to have people that are willing to kind of take a stand. But the one great thing, like my dad always said, that no one can ever suppress talent. No matter how hard they try, it cannot be suppressed. So I think that if you have a good business acumen, you care to learn about the business, and you're talented, and you can put those things together and then surround yourself with high valued individuals, not just people that are excited to be around you, fans, but people that are really going to add to you and help scale you up. I think you have a good chance.
Okay. Let's talk about your career in particular. You mentioned your dad in passing, but how instrumental was he in terms of your development, and what initial challenges did you encounter to establish yourself?
No, I think he was extremely instrumental in just the cultivation of my thought process. It was much more than just go out, work hard, but it was really teaching you about like what the real pitfalls are. Not trying to sugarcoat anything because it doesn't help you. And so for myself, especially when I was younger, you would impart on me certain knowledge and things of that nature. I was like, this sounds crazy. But as I had gotten older and experienced some of these things, then I was like, man, and so now I find myself when we're having conversations, just wanting for him just dump all of his knowledge and wisdom onto me. And just to answer your question, the landscape of the motherland when it comes to the arts entertainment. I think that there's a desire to start to really shift in this direction where we're really wanting to see an industry. But I think that there's a little bit of confusion about what an industry looks like and how an industry is run. But it's important for everybody to know that the entertainment industry is an $837 billion a year industry. Almost, and in 10 years, it'll be $1 trillion, right? Within 10 years, $1 trillion. That's insane. And as you would know, as any business, if you just get 5% of an industry, you're doing pretty well. So, if you can get 5% of $1 trillion, I think it's going pretty good for your GDP.
Yeah, it is. It is. And is it your view that there's a way in which we can systematically get a slice of that as part of from the motherland point
Absolutely.
Because you look at Bollywood, you look at Nollywood, Nigeria,
Nollywood,
and then of course Hollywood.
Right.
Those seem to be the three centers of power.
Right.
In terms of entertainment internationally. Right. Is there likely to be a new center of power, maybe in Southern Africa? And can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so, one of the reasons when I came to Botswana 2.5 years ago, I was able to partner with two other Motswana. We created a studio called Khumo Studios that's based here for capacity building and also to create original content, television, film, commercials, you name it. And that was something that was really important to us because we're looking at these landscapes, what Nigeria has been doing, what India has been doing with Bollywood, obviously SA, and then of course the juggernaut of them all in the marketing aspect, which is Hollywood.
Yes.
And so from my 20 years of experience being in Hollywood and learning and being able to be on the #1 show there and learning what that process has been, I wanted to take that knowledge and bring it here. And I do think that like with the SADC agreement, right, it shouldn't just stop at agriculture.
African, eh?
Yes.
Africa.
And then we all have the different regions, like Southern Africa is like, we'll do business with SA, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe.
I don't remember the name of it.
Is it SADC, SADC, something like that?
AFTA, yes.
AFTA, okay, great.
I know it.
Okay.
AFTA.
So we're looking at it and we go like, it shouldn't just stop at agriculture and things of that. It should also be
arts.
It should be arts and entertainment. We should be able to get producers, directors from this country and that country and bring them together to do these things. And this is how you build an industry. In Hollywood, within 5 to 10 minutes of each other, you have major studios. You have Paramount Studios that's 10 minutes away from Sony Studios. So this notion that there can only be one in one region is a crazy concept that doesn't exist in the U.S. So I think that the sooner we get that and we start to do capacity building, which is what we're doing at Khumo Studios, along with doing other shows as well, I think the more experience, it's all about repetition, right? The more reps somebody gets, the more comfortable they'll be able to be. And as more people start to really pay attention to what Africa is doing, I think we're going to be in a really great position.
Okay. Another name that pops to my head when you talk about exciting things like that is Tyler Perry.
Uh-huh.
What he did in Atlanta, starting from scratch. Do you see something like that being replicatable maybe in the motherland?
Yeah, Tyler's a unique story, right? Because he had Medea, which was a stage show, and that's where he pretty much got all of his fame and acclaim. And then he was able to monetize that and market it properly. And he was able, because he had an eye in real estate, he was able to find a great deal for Tyler Perry Studios, because he was able to get essentially, I think it was like a retired military base.
Yes,
it just was not operational anymore.
An abundant one, yes.
So a very abundant one. It's like 150 hectares. It's a very abundant one.
Yeah.
And but you already had some of the infrastructure already set up. But he's somebody that has always believed in himself, and he found a niche, right? And I think that that's something that's very important. As you know, like as a businessman, there's sometimes you get this younger generation that wants to do everything, and you don't want to tell them they can't do everything, but you also want them to understand you got to find one thing and do it really well. Once you finally do that really well, then start to branch out to do other things.
Yes.
And that's what Tyler did. He did the Medea thing. He did it really well. He maximized that. And then once that was maximized and was a well-oiled machine, then he said, let's start doing these other shows. And he found a niche that he does in the U.S. And the niche is continuing to pay him abundantly.
Yeah. Because I was asking if it's replicatable.
Absolutely.
But you have people like Steve Harvey, who came here and told us, I think it was 2019, end of 2019, he told us that we are underutilizing the resources that we have. He spoke of, the where we have our BTV there. What's it
right?
called?
Yeah. I was just there yesterday.
Yeah, he said the equipment is underutilized.
Yeah.
So what is your view on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the countries in Africa are going through a period of transition where I think that as this younger generation has more access to technology, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my goodness, right? Like having this younger generation in offices, you're like, guys, like always on your phones.
Yeah.
But I think because of the flow of information and the access to information from the outside world, I think there's more pressure to want to have an industry of entertainment. The reason why I love the business of entertainment is because it's the only industry in the world that can literally employ everyone. Cooks, cleaners, construction, everything, right? And you don't have to go to university in order to make a phenomenal life in the business, in the world of entertainment.
Yes.
And so I think that when you're looking at that, I think that some countries in Africa, we're in Botswana, so we'll talk about Botswana. I think that the governments are just trying to understand exactly what the entertainment industry is. And so what happens is you start to buy stuff, right? You start getting things, but you don't necessarily have the people yet to utilize those things. And it just so happens that the cameras, like for an example, for Yellowstone, we shoot on 4 cameras, but each camera that we shoot on is $250,000, right?
Like
so it's a 2.7, 2.8 million pula, right, per camera, and we shoot on 4 of them. Right.
Incredible.
So imagine
a minimum of 10 million just to get started.
But imagine though, if you just went out and got cameras. Now you have all this camera equipment, but you have nobody that knows how to use them. Because for each camera, we have about 10 to 15 people to run that one camera. You get. So it's not just somebody that can go out, buy a camera, push a record button, and then we're off and running for an international market. So I think that for the governments, I think that they're just really trying to understand what it is. And so Khumo Studios is having conversations with people at BTV and other things. We know all about, Steve and what that looks like. And hoping that Kumo will be able to be instrumental in facilitating some of those things, especially because I'm here now. I live here. My whole life is here. And so that's something that I think is important. So we really want to focus on capacity building so that the money that they have invested in this equipment isn't just getting, collecting dust.
Let's spend a little bit of time. That's very fascinating what you just said. Let's spend a bit of time talking about Yellowstone. What a concept. Tell us about the background, how it came about. And even the name, is there a deeper meaning? Yellowstone.
So Yellowstone was created by Taylor Sheridan, and Taylor Sheridan was on a show called Sons of Anarchy, which was like a biking show, like motorbikes and things of that, but like really rugged. But he's known for his writing. He's done things like Hell or High Water, Zakaria, a lot of things. He now has 7 shows out right now.
Oh, wow.
But he had a very long process, a man that really believes in himself as a writer, and he's super talented. And so 6 years ago, this is in 2016, 2017, he came to Paramount Network, which is what Yellowstone is on, And Paramount Network was only known for doing reality television. It had never done a scripted drama series, but they always wanted to get into scripted. And so he created this show with this other guy, John Linson, and he said, look, I got this idea. And they said, it's a Western. You guys want people to be cowboys, riding horses, the cowboy hats and cattle. In the early, like in the 2000s, I don't think that's going to work. And he said, no, trust me. And so he was able to go out and get Kevin Costner, who was like, this is pretty fascinating. And so I had just finished a film where I was also playing a cowboy, but it was a period piece from the 1860s. So I was kind of already in the pocket.
Were you the lead actor?
Yeah, it was one of the films I was starring on called Montford Chickasaw Rancher, which is on Montford. Yeah, I forgot. Sorry, my fault. Montford Chickasaw Rancher, which is on Netflix now. Although I don't know if it's in Netflix Africa, because when I looked for it a couple weeks ago, I couldn't find it. But you can Google it and it's there. And so that was one of the first movies that I was starring in, and riding the horses. And so when they called me in for the to read for this character that I played, Colby Mayfield, I was able to meet everybody, and they said, look, this is gonna be a big project. And so I don't think I appreciated what it was gonna be until I got there. And that's what we do. We're cowboys. So riding horses. We have 400 head of cattle, which was, I think it was all online, because then me coming to Botswana, I was like, oh, there's cattle everywhere. There's more cattle than people. I know, like, I feel right at home. And so that was, that's been my life for the last 6 years. That's what we've been doing.
And Colby, why were you attracted to that character? What's unique about it?
It's interesting for me because, Colby, he was very close to my personality in the regards of, he's kind of like a pack animal, where he loves to be around high quality people, and he loves to just do a job. Myself as an individual, I like to do a job, but I don't like doing it by myself. Like, it's the Bantu proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, that's a beautiful saying.
And I'm that type of person. I'm the type of individual. I like to go with people. And I think Colby has had a great opportunity by being on the show. I've been on it from the very beginning, from the number one, from the first episode, all the way to where we are now, which is in the middle of season 5. So it's been a tremendous run.
So does the character blend with your own unique personality?
Yeah, in some regards. Colby's a little bit more reserved than I am. As Denim, I'm a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more bombastic, I think, than Colby is. He's more chill, reserved, more go with the flow. I'm more of like, I need to have control as Denim. And so, but it's nice for me when I get to step into that role and just kind of take a step back. So it's been a tremendous opportunity.
So do you foresee it going long, like for instance, shows like Shark Tank, and just going decade after decade?
Shark probably not. Shark Tank is great because it's more reality, and so it's just everybody that's bringing them. This is a drama series, right?
Yes.
And so most shows don't go past like maybe 4 seasons now. We're in the middle of season 5, so we believe we'll do at least 7. But for us, because it's the number one show, and every single season we're getting more and more people, which usually the way that it works in television and film is the longer the show goes on, you start to see a dip in ratings. Where we're getting the opposite. As the show goes on, more and more people are coming. I think last year for season 4, we were getting like 12.4 million people an episode that we were getting, and now we're at season 5 and we're getting 16.
Wow.
So when you're looking at your numbers, you're like, nah, I think the show's probably going to go on for a little bit longer. With numbers like that, what are we doing?
Okay.
Yeah.
What about in the motherland? Is it being watched, and to what extent?
Some people, I think, I don't market it. Like when I first got here, I didn't want anybody to know who I was. I just wanted to kind of like,
you were incognito.
Yeah, I just wanted to be with the people. I just wanted to learn what Botswana was. I wanted to just know what the people wanted, and I didn't want anybody to feel like they needed to treat me differently. But then as I started to want to get some things done, that's when I was like, okay, I think we got to crank this thing up a little bit. We got to be a little bit. People got to know who I am.
Yes.
So that
it
they know
adds
that
to your credibility.
Yeah, it adds the credibility, and I just don't want anybody to think that I'm just wasting time in that, because I talk a lot, like, and I like to overpromise and overdeliver. And so when you start to go into rooms, you say, oh, I can do this, I can do that. They're like, we don't know who you are. We just think you guys came off the street. So now I like to let people know who I am. And so, I've had that show. I have 2 other films that just dropped, that are also on Amazon Prime.
Tell us about
those are called, it's called County Line, where I play a sheriff. So it's very different than playing in the Western world. But Yellowstone, you can also get on Amazon Prime. So if you just typed in Yellowstone on Amazon Prime, the first 4 seasons are out. My 2 films are also on their County Line on Amazon Prime. So I have a lot of content coming from the U.S. That I think is great for Botswana, because you have somebody that is a star in Hollywood that is here, that lives his whole life here. Wow. So hopefully that will help add to the credibility of Botswana and how we want to move forward.
So are you comfortable in front and behind the camera?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it.
So you direct your own movies?
I direct. I'm actually right now. I'm in the process of trying to take a step back from being in front of the camera as much here in Botswana. You just allow that to be something that I do in the U.S. because it's like I didn't come to Botswana to be an actor.
Yeah,
you get so
you came to Botswana to direct and to empower.
To empower, right? To produce. Directing is great, but I love the producing aspect. And I have a great team at Kumo. One of my partners, Ryan, which is here as well, who does the writing and producing and stuff that as well, who's from the U.S. And so this is something that I love to do more so.
Isn't the skill set different for directing versus acting?
Yeah, it's much different.
How so? I mean, I thought it was 2 different...
It's very different. So acting, you get the pleasure of, you get a script and you kind of just focus on your character in relation to the world that you're in, right? In relation to the other actors and things of that nature. The director is looking at the way that the set is built. Does the timelines, are they fitting? The director is the first one in and the last one to leave. The actor, you just come in and you're like, hey, I have dinner plans tonight. How long is this scene going to take?
Right. And focus on your
and
lines.
You kind of get to focus on what you're doing. Now, there's a lot of work that it takes to be an actor because it can be very stressful and very frustrating. However, when you get into the directing side of it and you have to deal with multiple personalities and actors are very, very eccentric, I know because I am one. And so when a director has to deal with so many personalities, but an actor usually only has to deal with like 1 or 2, I mean, look, I have such a tremendous respect for directors now, and even producers. They're the ones that have to be there from the very beginning all the way until the end, and that's a whole different animal.
So are you in fact directing yourself?
Yeah, I guess.
How does that work?
But it's not. I guess it's not as Tyler. People always talk about Tyler doing it and things of that nature.
It's my day off.
You have to have a good team. Like I think the misnomer is that people think that like it's just one person doing everything. You have assistant directors, you have writers, you have producers, you have directors of photography. Here we call them DOPs, right? That are setting all of these things up. So I think that it's really, really important for me, like. I will be the person that usually will get the most attention for something that's happening, but I can't do any of it without my team. Okay. My team is the reason why, and my team should actually get more love than anything. I just get the one that's like the people know about, but my team is the one that's doing everything. Yeah.
All right, I'm a little curious. Let's just rewind a little bit. The initial spark to come to Africa. How did that start?
Yeah.
And specifically, why Botswana?
It's a great question. It was a spiritual thing for me. For being an African American, our story in America is very convoluted with a lot of lies. So when I was growing up,
even in the books,
everything, right? I remember being in first grade or Form 1, Form 2, and you have 2 weeks dedicated to talking about people that look like me. And the only thing that we got to learn was we were slaves and that we came to the U.S. in 1619, landed in Jamestown, Virginia, and then we were slaves. And then some guy, a president, Abraham Lincoln, freed us
in 1863.
And
Emancipation Proclamation.
And then we had the people like the Malcolm X and Martin Luther Kings, and they were people that were able to sit and talk and they were proper, but then they were assassinated. And so what that does to the young child and to the young mind is it says that, number one, you hate yourself, you hate your history, because who wants to be attached to just being slaves, right? Who would ever want that? They never told us what was happening before 1619 when we had the Kingdom of Congo and we had king everywhere,
Kingdom
right?
of Mali and Menem Tapa,
what do we?
Even Egypt, so many. Ethiopia.
We don't get to hear any of these things, right? And so you start to hate yourself and you hate your identity because you don't want to be tied to anything. Like, nobody wants to be tied to that. And then when you decide, like, hey, I want to be somebody that is articulate and a business person, you look at some of those people, like I was saying, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, because those are the ones that most people would know internationally. they were assassinated. So what that does to you is it says, if you want to wear a business suit and you want to maybe talk about political issues and things of that nature, you have to
become a target.
You have to be prepared to risk your life. So then it becomes, but you can go be an artist, right? You can go entertain us. And if you want to entertain us, then great. Do whatever you want. Just don't be political. Just don't have an opinion. And so as I got older, I'm very opinionated, and I have a lot of people that I was like, I remember.
Did you read the writings of Marcus Garvey?
Yeah, I read the writings of Marcus Garvey, know all about Marcus Garvey, and I always had a pushback with Malcolm X and with Marcus Garvey, and with all of them, because people were like, how could you have anything to say about Malcolm X? I was like, I listen to Malcolm X all the time, but one of the things I wish that they would have done is I wish they would have been in Africa. I wish that they would have done more than just visit Africa. I wish that, when they were going to, when they were coming to Africa to visit, that they would sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to move my family here. And when I want to come back and talk, I'm going to fly back and we're going to have a conversation. When we're done with this conversation, I'm going home. You get. And I think that would have added to the credibility. Not, hey, we need to be treated equally here in the United States, because the people back then didn't bring you to the United States to be equal. So that's not why you were there.
How it was then, that there was no breathing space for them. That
nothing.
It's a little they could do. They're just getting choked nonstop.
Yeah, can't do anything
for 100 years with the Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
What did the guys? Have some sympathy for.
Oh, I have no. I have a tremendous amount of sympathy.
Yes.
You have to understand, for myself, when I'm talking about, like, MLK came to Africa, right? So I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the leaders, right?
In general,
you get. Because you have to give the people a sense that there's other bigger possibilities. The leaders were coming to Africa.
Yes.
And so for myself, I would have liked for the leaders.
The people should come as well.
And then what happens is when the leaders come to Africa and they say, there's people that look like us and there's opportunities, then I can go back and I can talk to my people and I can say, there's more. There's so much opportunity. Oh, we can do this and we can do that. And again, you don't know what you don't know. But for myself, it was a spiritual thing that I wanted to come to the motherland. I had looked at a lot of places in West Africa, because West Africa does a tremendous job with marketing. Ghana had Ghana, the year of return, right, which started in 2019, which then replicated the 400 years since we were taken but obviously we were taken from Angola, San Tome, and all the different areas in the spread to the four corners of the earth. So I was gonna go to those areas. I looked at Ghana, I looked at Nigeria, I looked at what else I had, like Gambia, and then it was just in my spirit, just go south, just go south. And I was like, I don't even know. And then I came across this country called Botswana.
In 2016,
and this is in 2018, 2019, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is Botswana? Never even heard of it.
Yeah.
If you showed me an African map, I would not be able to find Botswana. And it's a giant landmass.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it. And so I started doing a little bit of research, and I was like, God, it's so quiet.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, growing up in Los Angeles with 35 million people,
in one city,
it was like, oh man, this could be good. And so I decided at the end of season 4 of Yellowstone, which was in 2020, I bought a one-way ticket. And I was
like that.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
I told my family, I told my team in the West, I said, hey, I'm going to Africa. They're like, okay, enjoy your holiday. And I was like, well, it's not a holiday. And they're like, what do you mean it's not a holiday? And I was like, well, I bought a one-way ticket. They're like, great, when are you coming back? And I was like, I don't know.
We shall see.
And so, pending, right? Yeah. So I got here. I was thinking I was going to make a trip all around. I was going to go from here, South Africa, Zambia, then make my way to East Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and then make my way to West Africa and just figure out what country really resonated with me. And then when I landed in Joburg and got on Air Botswana, and I'm flying over on the commuter, and I look down at the soil, and I see soil that looks like my skin tone. I was like, and then I walked out, and then I just got the sense of the sweetness in the air, and I was like, damn, I don't think I'm leaving.
Just like that.
And
as you said, it was spiritual. It was even before you interacted with the people.
Yeah, 100%. But it was when you know that you're supposed to be here, and I'm very big with that the Most High sends his people to do specific things, and that you'll be blessed as long as you keep in line with those things. And so I'm very, very big on the only reason why I have the energy and the motivation to do the things that I'm doing now is it's not for me. It's because the Most High has sent me to do specific work. Wow. And I won't stop until that work is completed or until they stop me.
And how has been the response of the people? I'm talking men in the street, the individuals out there.
I think it's been positive. I think that there's a desire for more. You know, they're so hungry now, like it's like starting this fire. And so it's always really hard because we start this like groundswell and then I got to get on a flight and go back to the US. And so then they're like,
how often do you have to?
So usually I'm here for like 5 or 6 months at a time. And sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it'll be 3 months and I have to leave for 2 weeks to go do press and then I come back again. So I do a lot of flying. But my whole life is here. You know, I'm all in. All my investments are here. I do real estate, all of those things, right? Wow. So everything is here.
Just in 3-4 years?
Yeah, 2.5, right? Okay. So just into it. But I move quickly. Probably too quickly for most people because they think I don't think about anything. But it's been in my spirit for a long time. So now I'm just acting on it.
I'm a real estate investor, as you know.
Yes.
So when you mentioned real estate, my ears go.
Yes.
Yeah, and my antenna just goes off.
Yes.
Talk to me about just one real estate deal you've done.
Yeah. So I'm in this like small. So one of the places we were looking for land because we wanted to build a studio for Kumo. Outside of the city or whatever. So we traveled out. So like we're in a village of Boka, right? So we're out there and we have a lot of land out there now. And then I bought like, was this like maybe a year and a half ago, I bought like my first plot that was there. And right now we have like 5 units, you know, just something simple, like 5 units. Now we're in Kokoin. You know, we have some plots out there that we're doing some developing on and we'll be in Mogobe. So now like I'll just get, it's, you know, my passion is arts, but the business side of me loves real estate.
Are you creating multi-residential units for rental?
Yes. Yeah, multi-residential.
Some of them are occupied.
Yeah. So some of them are. One of them is about to be done. I think was it in 2.5 weeks. So I'm really excited about that. That'll be done in 2.5 weeks, and as soon as that one is done, then we'll be starting development in Kokoin.
So are you hands-on, or you have a contractor?
You don't have a contractor. I can't do it. I don't have the time.
But you do supervise the contractor.
Yeah. We have to. But you have a good relationship, but you still got to be there to make sure that things are handled properly, especially because I'm back and forth from the U.S. But it was important. And so I'm very big, especially with this younger generation, to say like, you know, get into real estate. It's a great savings account. It's a great nest egg. As you know, better than anybody. I should be talking to you only about that. But so I got my feet wet, and you know, the goal is to not only be doing it here in Botswana, but to all the other countries in Africa, where there's opportunities, which, as you know, there's a lot of it.
The golden rule is that you take your active income and convert it to passive income as soon as possible.
That's it.
And what better way than real estate?
I mean, my goodness.
That's it. So you're busy with what you love, the active income, but you're converting it to a gift that keeps on giving.
And it's the only thing that keeps up and beats inflation. Right? And that's, I think, is the most important thing. Like, how can we keep up with inflation and beat inflation? Real estate's the only thing that does that.
A lot of people in the entertainment space don't get that.
Yeah.
How did you get it? What drew you to real estate?
So I had an aunt early on, before she passed away, like 6 years ago. And the first time, I didn't grow up with money management. I didn't know anything about money management. My family didn't teach me anything about money management. So the first time I had I booked a national commercial, I made like $15,000, right? So I think it was like,
which was a fortune.
It was like 20,000 pula, right? Yeah. And oh my gosh, it was amazing.
15,000.
15,000 USD.
You have to multiply by 10.
Okay.
150,000.
So it's 150,000. Yeah. So, when I got this, I called my aunt and I was like, "Oh, I made all this money." She said, "Great. I want you to put it in this type of an account that's going to earn a little bit of interest rate just until you figure out what you want to do. And then you can go out, maybe put a little deposit down on like an apartment, rent it out." And I was like, why would I do that? Like, I want to go to restaurants. I want to go get a girlfriend. I want to go, like, the world's my oyster, right?
I want to
party. In 3 months, my oyster was dry and rotten, and I had no money. And but my aunt used to have, like, so she grew up as like a superintendent. So like she was in public education. And as many people know, people in public education don't make a lot of money. But she died a millionaire. And she died a millionaire because she did real estate. So when my family would be going on these 1 month vacations, she would go for 2 weeks. And they'd be like, why are you only going for 2 weeks? She said, I have a budget and I have it going to something. And so as I got older, she started talking to me more and more. And then when I started reading like Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki, right? Those types of, before I had any money, right? But just to start planting the seed. So then I did the really, really challenging thing, which was, I'm going to take this little bit of money and I guess I'm going to depart with it. Because I think for us, especially like as Bantu, we don't have a great relationship with money. We're used to not having a lot.
Yeah.
So we get scared and we don't want to release the money. Because if we release the money, what happens if something bad happens to me and I can't eat anything.
Yeah.
So now, as I've gotten older, I've built a relationship with money where it's like the moment that you put something in it and you see the land acquisition, you see building, you're like, this feels good.
So good because you're converting your hard-earned labor into physical,
into something
assets.
physical. Yeah. And the first of the month now becomes a blessing and not a curse, right?
Yeah. The name of your studio is Kumo, and that means wealth.
Yes.
How did that evolve? How did the name come about?
So I have a company. So my incorporation in the U.S. is Opulent Artist. That's my business in the U.S. is Opulent Artist. And so my thing was when I came here, my team was like, okay, well, what name do you want for this? And I was like, so I started looking at things in Botswana that meant wealth, power, this, that. And then Kumo came and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's not just about wealth as far as monetarily. It's about wealth of knowledge, wealth of information. And because I'm a firm believer that you can lose all of your money, but if you have knowledge, you can go anywhere in the world and make money.
True.
Right? If somebody just gives you money and you have no education, you have no knowledge, the money's gone, right?
Overnight.
So you might as well just burn it. But if you have the knowledge and information and wisdom and you're constantly reading and you get that, you will be able to duplicate and make money no matter where you go, and you'll never have a bad relationship with money. And I think when you start having a good relationship with money, you are able to prioritize. And so Kumo is something that I believe in speaking life. And so every time we talk about Khumo Studios, you're speaking life into us, and anybody that comes a part of Kumo, we're able to speak life into them.
Yeah. Now, you interact with young actors, you interact with young Botswana.
Yeah.
If there was one skill or one, if you like, mindset that you want to instill on them, what would it be?
I think you have to begin to look outside what you have deemed to be like the normal. For an example, I know a lot of Botswana, if you have an idea or something like that, you take it to like Cedar and say like, is this idea good? Right? And then they take their months or whatever it takes, and then maybe they say it's good or it's not good, or they're going to approve it or not going to approve it.
Yeah.
And I think what that does is it doesn't allow you to bet on yourself. And I think that for this younger generation, they have to start being unreasonable in betting on themselves, right? They got to take these big swings and start setting massive targets, and don't go to somebody for approval for somebody else that doesn't know you, doesn't know your passion, can't quantify your passion or desire in a spreadsheet or in a proposal. But to just bet on yourself and get around other people that do it. And if you don't have those people, then you need to be by yourself. And I think that a lot of Botswana are looking for people around them.
They're looking for validation.
And I think that you can't do that. I just don't think that that's the way. I don't think that's the way to go. I had a lot of people growing up that didn't believe in that I would ever be able to be an actor. They were going to law school, getting their law degrees. And they're like, Denim, what are you doing? I'm like, I got an audition, right? Like, in their mind, I'm not doing anything. But I always knew what I was going to do. I always knew this. So when I finally started to become successful, the only person that wasn't surprised was me. Everybody else was like, oh my gosh, you're a star on Yellowstone, you're doing this. And I was like, but this is what I expected. Right? I'm blessed, but I knew
you worked
so sometimes
well.
I think that people's reaction to my success is like, oh, so you guys really didn't think I was going to be successful. Right? So I just look at it like that. Like, I think that there's people that you have to stop looking for validation, and you have to start setting massive targets and stop allowing yourself to be distracted. The closer you can be not distracted, you're essentially taking away from your future. Right? And so if you allow yourself to be surrounded by high valued individuals, not dealing with the status quo, and look outside of your situation for something bigger, I think you're going to be in a good place.
Would you say that mentality pervades across our race regardless?
100%.
It's the same Botswana and same in America.
The Bantu is the Bantu everywhere we go, right? Like this is just it runs rampant in our community, and I know, and because when it's our community, and I also was one of those people. I wanted to hang out with my friends, chase women, do all these other things, and then you're sitting there going like, this doesn't seem like a sustainable thing when there's no money coming in.
Yeah.
And I want to be a high valued man, right? And I think that that's what our job
That's
is.
what you
as men,
are, by the way.
to be that. I appreciate that, and I'm working to be able to be. I'm happy to be sitting at the table with another high value man.
Well, likewise,
right?
likewise.
But that's the goal, is to be able to do that. And I think this next generation needs to start to see that appreciation and not get so caught up in entertainment. Don't get so caught up in looking at what these actors are buying, these athletes, these rappers. They're seeing them with these cars and all, but you're seeing a snippet.
Most of them are incorporated, aren't they?
They're all businesses. They're all businesses. That's why I say, like, when you are an individual, you will always be taken advantage of by businesses. And so when you're in this type of field, you must look at yourself as a business. You must learn everything. And you must get the right people. There's this guy, Henry Ford, that created Ford Motors, right?
Yes.
And back in the day, the press used to hammer him for being so stupid. And he said, well, he doesn't know anything about his business. So one day he invited all the reporters to come to him in his conference room. And he sat down and he said, ask me any question that you want. And they said, okay, well, how many rudders go on a such and such? And he picked up the phone, pressed one. He said, hey, Marv, how many rudders go on the thing? He said, 12. And he said, okay, the answer is 12. And he did this 3 or 4 times, and they're looking at him. He said, look, I don't have to be the smartest person in my business, but I have to surround myself with the smartest individuals in their field. And I think that that's the thing. You just have to learn that you need to be around high valued individuals and get people that are craftsmen and that are perfect in their craft.
When I read his biography, he even went further than that. He sued a guy who called him stupid or something.
Right.
And it went to court.
Yeah.
And he won.
Yeah, defamation.
Because he went through this. He sued the guy for defamation and he won.
Yeah.
Because he demonstrated that you have to know how to access knowledge.
Yes.
And you have to control that knowledge.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you should all have it compressed in your head.
How can you scale or do anything? And you just have to be, as a leader, as you know, your biggest thing is being an effective communicator and knowing that you can't speak to everybody the exact same way. Everyone has different personalities. They come from different geographic locations. They come from different financial institutions.
Differently
to different things. So your job is to be an effective communicator. And as you know, the hardest part about running businesses is nobody wants to hear your excuses for anything.
No.
Right?
No.
So you have to get really good at not feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody cares about how hard it is.
Yeah.
But this is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Excellent stuff. And of course, this leads to the masterclasses that you are having. You share this information. It comes across that you're very passionate. I started a mentorship program which I've been running now for 2 years because there's something that burns within me that says you can't keep this knowledge, this awareness to yourself.
Right.
Am I right in thinking
Absolutely.
that the same impetus led to the masterclasses?
Oh my gosh.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I always felt like if I was ever blessed with an opportunity to have a platform, that I would do more than just tell people to consume more of me. Because I don't like that. I don't like that type of an intention. But we have a younger generation that really is dying to have an opportunity, something for people to get excited about the future. And these master classes that we do, we talk about we call them the masterminds, right? It's the Kumo masterminds essentially. And we're pulling people together and we're teaching them.
Mastermind that I learned about. Is it the same thing that, is it in the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah, so exactly.
He talks about it. Is that the same concept?
Yeah, it's like the same thing where you're pulling people together to teach them about something and hopefully start to create these silos where people can understand the opportunities. So our basis is entertainment, right? But for those that want to be in entertainment, how do you scale your entertainment into your brand, right? Because Denim Richards is not just an actor. He's an entrepreneur. He's a business person. This is important, but the core, the nucleus of it is I'm an actor.
Yes.
I'm sitting at this table because I'm an actor. But then when you start to get to know Denim, you're like, damn, he does this, he does this, he does this. This is something that is important. So it's to look at yourself as bigger. And I think that that's something that we want. We want this next generation to know that there's people out there that believe that they can be successful. So every time we go now, like we were just in Zambia a couple weeks ago doing the same thing. We'll be back in Zambia in a couple of weeks. Lusaka. When we go back this trip, we'll be back in Lusaka. We'll be in Ndola and we'll be in Livingston doing these things. We're also going to be in South Africa doing that. And when we do these things here, I make them free. So there's no excuses. There's so many people that come in from the U.S. and like, charge $250 pula thing. And I was like, no, I didn't come here to enrich myself. I want to impart knowledge.
Have you noticed something which I thought is counterintuitive, that people, when they don't invest or pay for something, undervalue it
100%.
or dismiss the value thereof.
100%.
So sometimes you have to charge
You make
nominal
them.
fee.
So here's the thing. So my partners get very upset at me because we have this conversation all the time that they must invest in themselves. And I agree. In the beginning, my argument is I need as many people to come as possible because they need to hear about it. You're not going to get everything in a 2-day thing. It's not going to. But I believe that I can give you something enough in 2 days that when I come back and I charge you for it the next time, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that there is no excuses. So my mode, my methodology,
the appetite.
that's all I'm doing. So I always try to tell people it's always an opportunity for me to get into the market, right? For instance, when we're going to Zambia, I'm not in the market in Zambia yet. I wasn't. Kumo wasn't there. But then when I came offering free masterclasses for a 2-day thing, now I'm in the market. Now I'm all over their news and their press. The government knows who we are.
Brilliant.
So now because of that,
brilliant.
we go back and now we have this opportunity and that opportunity and now we're good. So I'm a big proponent. Like if you want somebody to ever invest in you, you need to show that you're going to invest in yourself. You can never go to somebody and say, give me something. They need to see that what they're giving you knows how to be nurtured. So when I give you the value that we give at Khumo Studios and you're saying there, we're going to get this for free, imagine how much more value we're going to get when we pay them. That's how I run my model.
Brilliant.
It's hard for most people to get, but I'm like,
No,
look,
I got it already.
It's just my methodology.
I'd like to think that my viewers got it already. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we do.
And at what point do they now start paying? And if they do pay, what kind of packages are you offering them?
So usually what we'll do, so like now we do like 2-day masterclasses, and the 2-day masterclasses are 8 hours a day. And so it's a run of everything from arts entertainment one day and then all business the next day.
Yeah.
And for some people, like we really just want the business stuff.
Yeah.
So we give you the package or whatever for one or whatever. So if you want the 2-day thing, or if you want to just split it up and say, maybe I just want to do the acting. I mean, anybody that's in the entertainment thing, you should know the business. But there's producers and things of that. They're like, just give us the business.
Yeah.
And so then we just do that. And then we also get into consulting, right? Where there's these younger artists and things of that nature that are just like, wait, we just want a one-on-one. We want an hour. We want 2 hours of just, I'm going to tell you what my situation is and tell me how I can maximize this.
Yeah.
And I don't take I like to look at it as like, I'm not trying to be a colonizer when I come over here and I try to say, well, it works like this in the US, so just do it here.
Yeah.
Every country in Africa has a unique way and the market is different. So it takes a moment for us to come in and go, do market research. What is the opportunity? So I don't want to tell you, just go to this audition. What audition, right? So we do market research. Our team does market research. Our team engages the other professionals that are in those fields. And so that when we're talking to the individuals, we're talking to them with the opportunities that they can see in their everyday lives.
That adds to your credibility. But my question remains, what do you then charge, or how do you charge once the initial free thing is done?
Yeah. So usually after that, the moment that the initial free thing is done, when we offer another class that is a little bit more intense, then it just depends on what the geographic location is, right? So if we're somewhere like here in Gabs, you always sit there and look at something like, okay, for a 2-day thing, which it still really isn't anything, we'll be like, okay, it's going to be about 400, 500 a pula for the whole thing. That's not really anything. For the knowledge and information that you're getting, it's nothing. When most people, they're like, oh, why can't it just be for free? And I'm like, but you guys don't value anything for free, right? You still come late. You still I'll give you an example. I did a radio show in another country, and the guy said to me, he goes, so Denim, so you guys are going to be doing 16 hours of masterclasses, so 8 hours a day, and you guys are going to be imparting this and this. And I said, yeah. And then he says, he's like, and it's free. And I said, yeah, it is. He's like, wow. He's like, so will you be feeding us also? And I said, excuse me? And he was like, well, you're keeping us for 8 hours of the day, so shouldn't you be feeding us? And I said, my friend, this is why there is no industry here. Because of that mindset. You don't see the value in somebody coming in and taking 8 hours a day of their own time that they're not getting paid for.
Time that I'll never get back.
That I'll never get back, right? No matter how much money you can, it can't buy you an extra day.
No.
And then you want me to pay for everybody to come? And so, but again, I understand why the question is happening, because it speaks to the level of, in certain tranches and areas, the level of kind of toxicity and bad habits. And so when we come in and we're sitting there saying we're laying foundations, you're going to buck against that system a little bit. But you want to be a part of a system that has structure. Don't you want to know when you're getting a paycheck? Don't you want to know that if you show up on time that you're going to be rewarded? Don't you want that? But we have to get out of this hand-to-mouth kind of mentality. And so we know that there's going to be a little bit of pushback in the beginning, but we'll win in the end.
Time for a shameless plug. In terms of success stories, people who've impacted, either through this or in your life, any mentees that you want to just blow your horn a little bit about or celebrate them.
No, we actually have some people now that they come to us all the time and they say, like, you've changed my entire perspective. They came and they did a project. We did a pilot here, Mogobe, which was our first TV pilot that we did in Botswana, where we hired 125 Botswana that were all working on this production. Everyone was getting paid. People were getting per diems, to whatever for weekly or whatever, all the way up until the time. And for them, when they walked away from it, they were like, this is what the standard of the entertainment industry needs to be. You treat us like professional. I bought a combi and drivers to take them. So, because, not everybody has cars, so that they can make sure they got there on time and this, that, and the other. Because I want everyone to see that I'm invested. And I think that for all the actors that were on Mogobe and people that were not, afterwards, they're like, when are we doing this again? We don't want to do anything else. We just want to go, because of the level of professionalism, the level of care, knowing that everyone's getting paid. They know that they're getting paid on time with no excuses. And so I think that Kumo, it's not a Denim thing. It's a team thing, and I think Khumo Studios is really trying to blaze that trail for professionalism.
And what was that particular project about? Where can one access?
So Mogobe is a pilot. So it was an opportunity for us to it was a very expensive pilot. It was a very expensive investment for me to learn what the industry was and wasn't. And so it was a telenovela. We hired 125. I think it was 125 Botswana. The only two people that weren't Botswana was myself and then Ryan, who's also came from the U.S. to write. Botswana.
There's Botswana for single.
So one, you're right. Yeah,
Botswana. Botswana for plural. Yeah.
Thank you. And so we hired it. So for them, what it was we wanted to learn what everybody does well and what they don't do well and how we can do more capacity building. So I'm a big believer that if you want to see what you got to invest in it. And so we learned. And so now what we're doing is we're turning it into a movie. Instead of doing just a television show, we're going to make it a movie, and then on the back end of that movie is when we're going to do the television series. So we're really excited, and that's one of the projects that we're working. We also have another project that we're working on called Entertainment Africa, where we're going around and we're talking to all the artists that are leading in their industries all around Africa. It's just celebrating them in African excellence. So we have a lot of we have about 7 projects that are going right now. So we're very, very blessed at Kumo, but we're looking forward to doing a lot more.
Okay. What about your interaction with the government? How has it been, and any insights?
Yeah, I haven't had any interactions with the government. I'm very transparent. No, I have not. It's surprising for most people because they're like, why wouldn't you have any interactions? I wanted to come first, build a foundation, and wanted to show the government that I wasn't somebody that was going to come and ask for something. I wanted to be able to come and say, I'm going to invest in all these things myself. And then when we're ready, I'll just say that we're ready now for that support, because we are wanting to do a lot of the stuff that we're doing is in line with what the administration says that they want to do for arts and entertainment, which is capacity building, training. We want original stories, original movies, things of that nature. And that's what we're doing at Khumo Studio. Yeah. And so it's not like it's just myself. My 2 other partners are here and are local, and they've been in it for a long time. And so now we're hoping to start having some very loud conversations as we move forward, because I think it's important.
I think that there could be political will, at least in theory, because the government has been talking about the Great Reset,
the
Reset agenda.
Right.
On top of that, less than a year ago, we set up a Ministry of Entrepreneurship.
Right.
So it looks like
with Helen, right? I think what's her name?
It's one of the I think she's the permanent secretary.
Yeah. Okay, she's the permanent secretary. Okay.
Helen Chilisa.
Yeah, yes.
So my thinking is that this is the right time to interact
engage
with them. I personally did not know exactly how they could, because we wanted to give them time to settle in.
Yeah.
So I think you and I, in our different fields, or jointly or whatever, should reach out and see how they can.
Well, I think that this is what's important. Like people like yourself that have built what you have built, and you understand the way that just the landscape works, you know, and I'm a person that just wants to come in and do the work. And it would be great to be able to have the opportunity to partner with you on something jointly, so that they can see that it's one accord, because I'm not a colonizer, right? It's not, you know, so I want to come in and I want Botswana to really feel empowered and know that they get something, that they get ownership as well, in the things that we're doing, because I want to create a brighter future. And if it's in line with what the administration says, I'm going to continue to move as if that's what it is until somebody comes to me and says, no, that's actually not what we want.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question that we never prepared for, me and you, which relates to your credibility and essential essence. My attitude is that a man does not become worthy until he's had a significant setback. I have, for instance, encountered what I call cataclysmic events, as a result of which I'm where I am. What is your cataclysm, if any? What is your setback, if any?
Oh, my.
And how did you deal with it?
Oh, man, we don't even have enough time. But I'll just, I'll say this. I've had several cataclysmic events in my life that has kind of framed me the way that I am. But I remember one specifically is when I was in my flat in the U.S., and I got a knock at this door. It was a knock, and then I was like, well, nobody would be, who would be visiting me? And I saw the person leaves, goes downstairs, and I open it. It's my eviction notice. You're out of your place. Because I had no money, right? I was an artist.
You're in arrears. How many months?
No money.
I normally give people 2 months.
Right, you see, yeah.
How many months you had?
Yeah, I think I was at 3. You know, I didn't have and I had no money.
Yeah.
And then I was sleeping in my car. And I was, and I was with my dog at the time, this terrier, and I'm sleeping in my car. And I remember I would hang out at my friend's house. They'd be like, all right, cool, like whatever. And they go to bed. And then I go and pull around the corner into like a residential neighborhood where hopefully there's no lights. And then I take my shoes off, put them under the car. And then I roll the windows down and I go to sleep.
This is a familiar story. Steve Harvey talks about it. For him, it was 3 years. How long was it?
It wasn't 3 years for me, because I was like, this isn't going to be. This can't be my story. And but it was long enough. I'll tell you that.
How long?
It was a couple months that it was like that, where you go to a friend's house, you shower, you do this, and then you just try to make it work. And then there was a point.
And then you sleep in the parking lot.
Yeah, and then I would go, and if it was a place, I'd go sleep in a parking lot, or I'd go sleep in like a residential area, usually because it's just quieter. And you never liked like when I was sleeping in like the parking lots of like what we had, like grocery stores, right? At like 6 a.m., that's where people are coming, and then it's uncomfortable. So it's a whole thing. And that was a lot for me, and it really changed my whole mindset. And I remember I was like, I can't ever be here again. And that wasn't the end of it, but it was at least a mindset, a seed that was planted. And so no matter how successful I get, I'm never going to forget the person that was sleeping in the car and what that looked like. And then it just became, I had to be more unreasonable, but it took me 3 or 4 years before that even clicked about what being unreasonable was and what betting on yourself was.
Term, because I think you have a special meaning to it.
I do. Like, unreasonable means that you're not taking no. Like, taking a no or hearing a no is not enough. We have people, even on my team, where I'll say, hey, call such and such at 10 a.m. And they'll call them at 10 a.m. and I'll go back at 11 and I'll say, hey, so what did they say? Well, they didn't answer. And I was like, so did you call them again? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you? Because I call them at 10 a.m. I said, no, you call them until they pick up the phone, until they have something to say. Like, it's about, you have to be unreasonable in every aspect, because I know what it's like to be, to make a difference. And I need people to understand that, like, I'm not here to play. Like, I say that all the time. I feel like people play too much, and I'm here to get things done. I didn't come here to hang out. I have a very limited time on this earth. The Most High sent me to do something special, and I'm not going to just take that time. And I did that for a lot of my 20s, was just playing around. And now that I've gotten more opportunities and I appreciate and I'm more in tune with myself, I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth. So that's kind of how my cataclysmic event kind of set me on to.
How did you turn it around? In terms of what did you do?
So I had the opportunity where I had to make some sacrifices. It was really, really challenging. I remember at that time I was also in a relationship with a girl, but she had her own apartment. I was like, this isn't a good idea. I don't need to live with her. But I was like, but I do need a place to stay. So let's just get in here. And then what ended up happening was, I remember one time I was going to buy dog food, and the dog food was like 100 pula. I put in my card, cards declined. And I'm sitting in this thing, and I'm like, but my dog's got to eat. And then I'm now at the place where I was like, do I Do I steal this dog food? Or like, because you get into this mindset where like, how do you not have 100 pula to be able to do something? As talented as you are. And this is what I knew, as talented as you are. How? And it was because you're always playing. You're not surrounded by high level individuals. And so finally I decided one day, I was like, every opportunity that I have, I'm going to go to. And, prayerfully, I started going to more. I really started dedicating that time to where this was my only focus. Everybody else was going out. I was only focusing on my craft. And then one thing kind of led to another, and, you know, now here we are. Yeah.
What is the long-term goal? I think the way I normally put this question is that you grab your crystal ball and look into the future.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you broadly, because now you're struggling 2 continents.
Yeah.
What's the long-term goal for the U.S. portion and the Botswana portion?
Yeah. The long-term goal is that, you know, Africa is the past, present, and the future. So my long-term goal is to be here on the continent. And U.S. right now, it's been a tremendous blessing because it's changed my life and it's allowed me to do the things that I'm doing here in Botswana and all these other places. And so for that, I'll always be forever grateful. And as long as that is an opportunity, I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity. But like I said, my whole life is here, all my investments. And so my long-term goal for here in Botswana is to be able to build studios, to be able to build conservatories, to be able to create and really do the thing that I think is really running, which is the real pandemic to me in Africa, is the youth unemployment. And really figuring out ways that we're going to be able to create capacity building to get these youth off the street, to give them an opportunity to know that you don't always have to go to university to be successful, but that there's a place for you, where you can have a life and you can have a family. And so for myself, my long term is building a studio for Kumo, doing Kumo Conservatory. We have other businesses that we're doing as well. Obviously the real estate play, hopefully some with you. But yeah, that's the long term, that everything will be here.
So if you close your eyes and look 20 years down the line, is there a building? Is it
a studio.
Mini city?
It's a mini city.
It's a mini city.
It's a mini city. 20 years down the road, it's a mini city with the private airport and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the absolutely. Of course it's doable.
Because you want to go beyond what Tyler Perry has done.
Yeah, that's Tyler Perry. He set a blueprint that was great. But you know, before Tyler Perry, you had somebody like Walt Disney, right? My house in Orange County is 5 minutes away from Disneyland. And when you look at the plot that Disneyland sits on, Disney went to like 55 different investors and they said, it's a plot of dirt, right? Like, what are you doing? So when I came to Botswana and I'm going out and I'm looking at all this land and my mind is like,
and it's the value is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. To most, if you've grown up here, you're like, it's just,
a piece of land.
It's just thorn bushes. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. So for me, and within 20 years, it's a mini city with its own airport, and everything. And I know that it's possible and I do it intentionally because I don't expect to fail.
What's your I'll ask you later, but what's your question for me, if any?
My question to you would be, with all of the knowledge and information that you have cultivated over your career, what was the biggest challenge for you to overcome? And how do you then incorporate that into teaching people in the future?
Yeah, how much time do we have?
Yeah, you see?
It's a hell of a question, and you can't answer it in a couple of sentences. But
of course not.
I'll try and compress it because I've shared my life story on these same nuggets.
Right.
I think the formative stage where the first 10 years of my life I was living with my grandparents. No, my mother was a single parent before my parents reconciled. Then I spent 2.5 years of that time with my grandparents, and one of the grandparents was my step grandmother. It was harsh. The environment was harsh. I was something like 7 to 10 years old. I used to do tough things. So I got used early, at that early stage, to get used to toughness, to get used to roughness, traveling 30 Ks, for instance, going to the cattle post and getting up, Monday morning to go to school and things like that. And also fetching water from long distances over my head, carrying it though, and that kind of thing. And because my step grandmother was tough on me, and my father allowed it. But that's the best present, because I started embracing hardship and even enjoying it. Because
Yeah.
I used to sing when I was doing these core chores.
Yeah.
Because they used to, she used to allow her own children to just sort of hang around and
Right.
do most of the tough work. I mean, really, I don't want anybody to misinterpret this,
Right.
because there were some pluses as well.
Right.
And after my parents reconciled and they got married, then I got used to having two parents in the house, and that also had its negatives, because my dad was very tough, and he introduced me to another kettle post. So I call myself a product of two kettle posts. There was hardship, but that hardship had a little bit of love, but tough love. And we used to also, those long distances during the holidays, working. So those were tough events. There are other events that I went through which I share elsewhere, but those initial ones, I think, were very helpful in terms of setting a foundation for the success
now
that
where
came
you are
later.
now.
Yeah, and you can't really stump me with a setback anymore.
And well, now
it's
you've
very
built,
difficult. Yeah.
now you've built your own cattle post that is a plaza.
Yeah. Because you need to get used to adversity.
Yeah.
You need to know that adversity is a blessing.
Yeah.
And behind every adversity, there's a blessing.
Yeah.
And so I no longer just say, look, terrible things are happening. I say, what is the reason behind this? What is the good out of this?
And how to embrace that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's the blessing from this? Yeah. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a nugget.
The question, and I'm sure that nuggets will be coming out of you from this, that I want to ask is that what is the all-encompassing overall message? If you were to wrap up what we've shared, what do you want to leave the viewer with? And for that, you have to look at which camera? You have to look at the camera, because I want direct eye contact for that one.
Direct eye contact. Okay, great. So the hope anytime that I have the opportunity to sit with greatness is that everybody feels that there's an opportunity out there waiting for them, number one. Number two, you should leave with a better understanding of yourself. And number three, which I think is more importantly, is understand that you have so much value, but your value can only be valuable if you start to value knowledge and education. So start to invest in yourself first and get used to embracing adversity, just like you just said. Embrace the adversity in whatever tranche and whatever area of life you are, and don't look at yourself as being a victim, but then understand that every victim can be a victor.
Wonderful. You wrapped it up nicely. Now you have to share all your contacts, social media, and elsewhere. People have to know where to reach you and your organization.
Yes, so let's do Khumo Studios. So Khumo Studios, you can go to kumostudios.co.bw, which is our website, and you can find everything that we're doing right now. You can also go to We Are Kumo, which is Instagram, Khumo Studios on Facebook and on Twitter. And then for whatever reason, if you desire to follow me on any social media, it's just at Denim Richards, right? So just Denim Richards, which is my first and last name, on all social media platforms. So it's very, very simple.
Wonderful. Is there a landline?
There is a landline. It's on our Facebook page. I don't know it by heart.
Okay,
if Trisha was here, she would have been able to say it. But if you go to Khumo Studios on Facebook, all of our information is there for sure.
What about WhatsApp?
WhatsApp. We're also on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's accessible on
it's accessible. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've done a great job.
I appreciate that.
You've done beautifully. And you've inspired me.
Yeah.
Inspired me.